Welcome to the webinar on mindfulness for teachers and students. And I'm going to share my screen. There we go. All right, welcome. And so this is on mindfulness, and I'm very excited to be able to share this with you because one of the things that I found that's been real helpful is to really understand how we can use mindfulness in supporting you as teachers, you as adult service providers, our students, but we also have used a lot of mindfulness in our county in supporting when we're doing residential supports for people. We've been looking at how we can support people with using mindfulness, and it's been super cool. We've seen some amazing results for adults with very significant challenges who've been we've been able to use mindfulness in a way to support those adults, and we've also found that schools and classrooms can use this as well. Now, to get a copy, either put your email and name, first and last name, in the chat, or you're welcome to also just email me, and there's my email, janet@attainmentcompany.com. So what I'm looking at right now is I'm trying to get the chat up, but okay, so we're going to get started. So I come from lots of background, and those of you who heard me yesterday or last week, I've done several webinars, so you just need to email me. I'm happy to give you a link to all the webinars. And I've been a high school teacher. For 25 years, I placed students and adults with disabilities in jobs. I also am a registered nurse. I went back to school to be a nurse, and that's really where I'm building and looking at how we think about our health, our mindfulness, and also when we're supporting our students and adults with disabilities, as well as taking care of ourselves. I ran personal care services. I worked at the Department of Health Services. So I've been all over the place. And now I work at Attainment Company, and I absolutely adore Attainment Company. I used to job coach at Attainment Company. They've hired people with disabilities over the years. Back in 1988 was my first experience with them. So let's talk about how mindfulness can be used both in your professional and personal life. So what we're going to talk about is strategies to really build activities for both you and your students or adults with disabilities, and then how we can engage them and get them learning about self-monitoring techniques. All of this really helps with calming, focusing, and what they call increasing social intelligence. So really the idea is that how can we make things better for both yourself and your students? So I wanted to start this conversation with the idea of where are your core values? So thinking about what are your core values and how that translates into the work that you do in the classroom or with people with disabilities. So looking at those core values, that creates a classroom culture. And part of what I'm looking at is trying to build up this classroom culture to really think about how we make a change to that culture, because then our actions really speak to what those student experiences are going to be. So thinking about what are your core values. So what is a core value? It's your principles, it's your standards, it's the quality that you expect and that what you desire to do. And then your values are what guide your attitudes, your behaviors when you're both with your students and personally as well. So why do you need core values? Well, when you're clear with your core values, that is your anchor. And you are now in the storm of change. And there's no doubt that the storm of change is about anchoring yourself. How do you do that? It's through your core values. It defines your character. It defines the character of your school setting or your work setting. The culture of your work setting is defined by that the core values of that organization, but also what you identify as well. And so you're thinking about what is consistent with what experiences your students are getting, or what are you consistently providing and your colleagues. So your core values is your compass. So this is what guides you. And why I start with this conversation is because I look at those core values and how that builds into your mindfulness potential for both yourself and your students, or again, with adults with disabilities. And what is it that you want as an outcome? What's your daily outcome, the expectation for your students? And what's your outcome for yourself at the end of your workday? So what motivates you in your job? And you think about what are those typical motivators, and this is how we're going to build mindfulness into this. So your work makes a difference. I mean, it's the coolest thing, that the fact that your work makes a huge difference in the lives of children and adults with disabilities. You obviously maybe like problem solving, you like seeing progress, you enjoy the people you work with. I hope you do, otherwise why do this job? And then you feel supported maybe in your job. Sometimes you might not for tough decisions, do you? And is there open communication in your school building or work setting? And are you feeling appreciated and listened to? So right now, think about what are 3 things that motivate you to do your job every day. And I know your job looks different today than it did 3 months ago or even 2 months ago. It looks very different. But if you think in general, what really motivates you to do the work that you do? I'm letting you think on that. All right. So the top 5 motivators, this is research that's done this. The top 5 motivators that companies have found is 1, it's your peer connections, your camaraderie. 2 is that intrinsic desire to do a good job. 3 is you're feeling encouraged and recognized. And maybe sometimes your community may not recognize you, or the public may not recognize you, or the taxpayers. But if your parents and children recognize it, that might be enough. Having a real impact and then being able to grow professionally. Those were the top 5 motivators when they did research. So how do we make these connections to students? Because often that's probably one of your biggest motivators, is making that connection to students and having an impact. And so it's how we communicate with them. Are we respectful to them and them to us? Are you building excellence in your teaching or in your work that you're doing in the adult service system? Do you have good teamwork? Are the students learning how to work as a team? And what are your guiding principles, and are you building trust? So that's how you build these connections with students. And mindfulness can really make an impact on this. Now, time builds relationships, and I found a few really cool quotes. The key is not spending time, but investing it. So the idea behind mindfulness is that you are thinking, being thoughtful about how you're investing your time. You're investing time with your students, you're investing time with the people that you're supporting, but also time is the most valuable thing you can spend. It's the most valuable thing we have. But here is a cool thing. Time is an equal opportunity employer. Each human has the exact same number of hours and minutes each day. Rich people can't buy more, scientists can't invent more. You can't spend it on another day. Even so, time is fair and forgiving. No matter how much time you've wasted in the past, you still have an entire tomorrow. I love this perspective of time, because now it's thinking about how are we spending our time? How are we connecting with our students? So here's mindfulness. Mindfulness really is helping people cope with just their everyday lives, everyday obstacles. Everybody has them. So it's talking about relaxation, it talks about meditation, gentle yoga, breathing, guided imagery. We're going to practice some of these things. And some of these things sound like, well, that's not something I might do. Trust me, we all do this. We do this even subconsciously. But I love that little cartoon, mindful or mindful. And now this is where we're going to be trying to get rid of all that busyness to build that quiet cloud and helping our students know how to do that. So it's basically what it is. It's the gentle effort to continually be present in the experience. It's being incorporated now all over. Businesses, corporations are doing it. Science, education is doing that. Medical science is looking at how this builds better healing and health outcomes. The number of studies shows that it influences people who have some challenges, who have intellectual disabilities or developmental disabilities. It can improve the quality of people's lives. And they talk about it really reducing some challenges for people. And if you think about it, if you're really mindfully supporting somebody or a student that has some challenges, and you're really focused on how to do that, instead of just thinking about, I mean, of course, we look at reinforcers and you know, antecedent behavior consequence, ABCs, when we're supporting people with challenges. But I'm saying, let's think about how we can do this mindfully, because research is showing that it improves the lives of both the teachers, it gives them healthy emotional well-being, it helps understand student perspectives, and it frees them up to be more effective in the classroom. This is research that has proven this. So how it does this is it changes our brains. So we look at the outer world. Mindfulness, when you start practicing mindfulness, it actually changes your outside world, your physical health, your relationships with people, and it improves your inside about what you're feeling, what your thoughts are, and what your images of your world are. So they talk about why bother. It's because we miss so many messages. We miss so many messages from others that compromises our well-being and others around us. So what we're missing is because we're too busy. Now, we're going to always be busy. Don't get me wrong. We're still busy people. But remember that time and how we spend it and how we invest it is being more thoughtful in that process. So our focus is not going to be on doing, getting, having, bigger, better, just so we're going to be happier, because you already know that doesn't necessarily work. It's about how we change the way we see our world. And then when we do get angry, anxious, or frustrated, we get all of those. How long does it take for you to recover? And that's where mindfulness helps us. So the outcome is, they say we have 50,000 thoughts each day. Now, even while we're doing this webinar, you're thinking of other things, because I say something and that builds your frame of reference of, you know, I thought about this, and you're starting to think about an experience or maybe a dream you've had, or, you know, you go back and forth on thoughts all the time because we think faster than we listen. So you're hearing what I have to say, but our thoughts are moving. So our mind wanders. How much control do we have of our thoughts? I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't seem like much because your mind's going here and here. And then can we actually stop thinking for 10 seconds? No, you really can't stop thinking, because you're going to stop thinking and then you're going to be thinking about stop thinking. So, and do we always know what our next thought's going to be? Not necessarily. Things pop in our head, songs pop in our head, ideas pop in our head. So mindfulness is the purposeful process of focusing, being in the moment, understanding how you're feeling and how your physical well-being is. So the benefits to mindfulness, as we already know, it helps our immune system. The medical community knows this. Lowers blood pressure. It changes our emotional set point. It decreases stress hormones like cortisol. It lowers risks of heart attacks and strokes. It improves attention. Now we're talking about those students. It gives them a better performance. Again, research is showing us that. It offers opportunities for emotional regulation. And this is going to be, I'm going to give you examples of people I know that have used mindfulness and have helped them in that emotional regulation. Now, what they found as an after effect of doing mindfulness activities was that people have greater compassion. And it was, they didn't expect this, but they did these tests to see, and they found that people are more willing to help others who have been practicing mindfulness than those who have not. And of course, it reduces stress and anxiety. So here's some research. So some people like to see the actual research. I gave you a link to the actual research on mindfulness in education. So this is specifically focused on teachers and classrooms. And these are all the things that it did. I used mindfulness activities, guided imagery and meditation for pain management. As a nurse, I worked with a gentleman with Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. And so a lot of his pain was in the back of his legs, and he didn't walk anymore at all. And it was very frustrating. And so we would go through, he was on major pain meds, I mean, heavy duty. And so that hardly touched it some days. So I used mindfulness practice with him. And it was a wonderful opportunity to help him go through that pain. Is the pain still there? Yes, of course, but it is a way to manage that pain, and it takes him somewhere else. So I did guided imagery. I'd always take him to a beach because, of course, you know, he didn't walk on a beach anymore. So we'd always go to a beach and we'd get in the sand and the water, and I took him some other place. It was great. And then, as you can see, it helps a lot of things as well as sleep. So it's about breathing, light yoga, meditation, guided imagery, and relaxation. So from a mindful center, we can respond instead of to react. Unconscious reactions create problems. And you've probably had these. All of a sudden you get this burst of anger or sadness or happiness. And you think, where did that come from? So the idea of mindful is to be, your responses are to bring peace, but to create, not to kind of get rid of that unconscious, but be consciously reacting. So whatever happens can meet with wisdom and compassion. And so I wanted to share that quote with you. So here's what we're going to do. So I know you're all in different places and different locations, and you're thinking, okay, what is she going to make us do now? So I'm going to walk you through an imagery meditation. Literally, it's only going to take minutes. Something you could do anytime, any place, any day. All right. So if you would be so kind, I'm going to talk you through this. If you would get comfortable in your chair and close your eyes. We're going to start at the top of your head, and we're going to open it up and bring that warm, lovely sun, and it's going down into you and filling you with that warmth and that feeling of light. And you're going through your face and down to your neck. Relax those muscles, your right shoulder, your left shoulder, and relax those muscles all the way down to your right arm and now your left. Your hands are relaxed, your arms feel relaxed. And we're going all the way through to your core. Breathing in, 2, 3. Breathing out, 2, 3. Breathing in that fresh, clean air. And breathing out the air your body has used to cleanse and to feed the blood in your body. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now we're going down. You can feel the chair you're sitting on. You feel that. And you're going to be moved to be a little more comfortable and relaxed. And I want you to go down your right leg. Relax those muscles, those calf muscles, those feet. Now can you go down your left leg and relax those muscles, those calf muscles in your feet. And your feet now are planted solidly on the ground. And now we're going to go together, and we're going out of your room, and we're going to walk together. And we're going to walk, follow me, come with me. And we're going to walk over this little bridge. It's one of those beautiful little bridges made of wood, and there's a babbling brook underneath. It's beautiful sound of water coming underneath that bridge. And you're going to cross over it. Come on with me. We're going over to the other side of that bridge. And it's a beautiful meadow. The grass is so green, and that breeze, it's just a nice, warm, cleansing breeze. You can feel it on your face, on your arms, on your legs. The grass on your feet is so soft. You're going to look around. Look at the beautiful flowers. They're pink and white, purple, red, all these beautiful flowers. And I can smell them. They smell so good. And did you hear the birds singing? I hear them. The birds are singing. They're so happy. And they're singing, and I'm smelling these wonderful, wonderful flowers. And I hear the birds, and I feel that warmth and that sun. And I'm going to lay down on that grass, and it is so warm and comfortable. And it is so relaxing as I listen. I can hear the sounds of nature around me, and I can hear that water and that brook, and I can hear the birds, and I smell that wonderful grass. And it is such a wonderful place. And it feels so good to be here. And this is my happy place. I don't have to think about anything. I am just feeling being in this meadow. And I can stay here as long as I want. But right now, we're going to stand back up. And I know you hate to leave this beautiful meadow, but let's go back to that beautiful bridge. It's all wood, and there's beautiful flowers intertwined in the rails. And I'm walking over that bridge, and that water is so crystal clear, and it sounds so beautiful. I'm walking over to the other side of the bridge, and now I gotta walk this way. Come with me, come on. We're going back into the room, and we're going to feel our feet back on that floor, and we can feel ourselves sitting on that chair. And now you can slowly open your eyes, and everyone's heart rate is slowed. You are so relaxed, and that whole process took 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes in your daily life to walk yourself through this imagery and this meditation. That's what it is. Take yourself to any place you want, and you can go anywhere you want to go. And it's a process of breathing, and it's a process of relaxing your body, and then walking to a place, your happy place, a place that gives you that comfort. You want to use all your senses. You describe smell, feeling. You want to make sure that you're hearing. And so you add all of that into it. You can actually record your own meditation and imagery. And for children or young adults, you can change that imagery to going to places that they might enjoy going to, whether it's out on a lake or in the woods or on a beach. And so you think about where you're going to take your students. And it takes practice. And you can see that I've lowered my voice, I slowed my voice down, and it's having students listen to you. And the reason why you're closing your eyes is because visuals give us information that doesn't allow us to take us on ourselves to a different place. Now, we can do this any time we want, of course, except when we're driving. And so think about when you can find 3 minutes, 2 minutes, that you can practice this for yourself. And then how can you find time with your students to practice this with them in the classroom? So I'm gonna give you some examples. So here's some examples in a classroom. So one of them was talking about helping the students be in the moment. So focusing on the moment. Now, of course, it depends on, of course, you can have chocolate in your classroom, but the idea is that you give, every student gets a Hershey's Kiss. And by the way, candy kisses are okay for students with peanut allergies, because they actually make them in a separate factory from their Hershey's with peanuts. So a Hershey's Kiss is a safe candy for students with peanut allergies. But anyway, so you have them put it in their mouth, you talk to them, you count, you have them smell it, the temperature, the consistency as it melts, the taste in their tongue. The whole idea is to be mindful about what they're putting in their mouth. And honestly, all of us aren't all that mindful. We eat in front of the TV, we're eating with family. How mindful are we of what goes into our mouth, and how slowly are we eating? This is a way, just a fun exercise with the students. Another one, as we said, is guided meditation, having them sit in a circle, closing their eyes, just paying attention to the breathing. Say, look at your belly's expanding when you breathe in, and then take them to a fun place, wherever you think the students might go. And really, you might have to do this just in 1 minute increment. That might be all the attention you're going to get from those students, and then you build it. And research has shown what a difference this makes for students. Here's another one. Again, that idea that I was trying to have you relax. I went through the relaxation really fast, but you can start that way and then move into expanding it to being longer and longer. And so I sometimes here they start with the feet. I started with the head because I wanted all of you to think about how you're relaxing from the top down. But they also talk about going the feet up. And so gently, you contract the muscles, release them, contract and release. And that's actually how they work on having students be able to relax their physical body. And then there's a resource of 51 activities and techniques for teaching mindfulness to children. And some of them are for young children, some are for middle school, and some are for high school. So how you can use mindfulness into your teaching day. They talked about simple ways for the teacher to use mindfulness. So these were recommendations for what you can do, taking this breathing moment, listening, grounding yourself, using your sense of smell. Of course, we as teachers working with students with more significant disabilities, we already know we might have students that, we have to change to pens. We might have students that have colostomy. So smell is maybe not always our best friend. And then trying to change the scenery, thinking about what you can do, even if you're right now working in front of computers, making sure you're getting up and changing your scenery, walking mindfully. And they talk about making authentic connections. And it's interesting because we connect to people all the time. But how authentic are they? Hi, how you doing? How you feeling? Doing well? Good. Yep. Oh, have a good day. Goodbye. And the idea of mindfulness is to stop and actually ask, how are you doing? And then, has it been a good day today? What was your favorite thing happened today? Asking and making that more of an authentic connection. And it doesn't take a lot more time. I mean, we think we don't have time, we're rushing. And I know we do rush, we're going from one place to another. But think about even that 1 30-second interaction might be meaningful to that other person, and it might be meaningful to you. So how do we re-energize ourselves? So this is when I was talking about think about our life as a kitchen full of appliances, right? So when we re-energize ourselves, we have to have some circuit breaker. There has to be something that's going to help us to say, okay, we've gotten enough. So how do we redistribute, that's hard to say, the multiple demands on our energy? So here's what I've always recommended is when somebody wants you to do something more, what else in that kitchen do you have to unplug? Because otherwise you're going to break the circuit. So you have this amount of energy. So now, and it's interesting, my sister-in-law had MS, and one of the things she had to think about each day is what did she want her spend her energy that day on? Because she had a finite amount of energy each day. She had to think, what do I want to do today with my energy? And so thinking about that, what do you unplug in order to plug something new in? So it is about prioritizing, but also thinking about, someone says, would you please be on this committee? Well, so many of us, we're just yes people. Oh, yes, I'm honored to be asked, or yes, I feel like I need to help. Or so instead saying, how much time do you think this committee will take? Okay, that sounds interesting. I really like to be part of it, but based on what time we think it might take, I'm going to need to unplug something else. What else are you going to give up in order to plug this in? And that's a harsh reality, and it's a hard one for us because we think we can do everything and do it all. And that's really where we lose our energy. And so thinking about that, and whenever you say yes to something, what are you going to unplug? That's all I ask you to think about. It's a great visualization. So assessing your own lifestyle, how do you increase your energy? Well, nutrition is number one, and I think everybody knows that. We're all supposed to eat fruits and vegetables, and we all know it. We don't all do it. So thinking about what nutrition would be helpful to really help you build more energy in your life. What kind of exercise? And it doesn't have to be a lot. Okay, I have to put in kitty pictures, you know. So what kind of exercise would be helpful? It can be just walking. People don't have to join the gym. So really thinking about movement every day. So hydration, it is so important. Our body is actually made of a significant amount of water. Our body's made of water. And so we have to think about, how do we keep ourselves hydrated? Americans drink way too little water. Now, some people drink lots of water. And some of our clients with disabilities, there are some restrictions to water. As you know, sometimes people with the label of autism may focus a lot on water, and so you have to limit some of that. I get that. And people with a congestive heart failure have to limit amount of water. So I don't mean to say everybody can drink all the water they want, but just thinking about hydrating yourself. And meditation and relaxation. So, you know, got to find cute pictures. So really thinking about how you build that into your day. And we just did today in a very short time period. So it's finding that balance. So thinking about 3 examples right now that you do or that you want to do, that you think about exercise or healthy or sleeping or water, meditate. What are 3 things that you would like to do really to find balance in your life and to re-energize yourself? Write them down. The reason I have you write things down is because when you listen to a webinar or any training or any video, you think, well, that's a really good idea. And then by the end of it, you've probably forgotten that really good idea. And then by tomorrow, you've kind of lost the interest. And so I want you to think about what you're writing down to make a commitment to yourself, and really helping to re-energize what motivates you. So far we've written those things down. That's the purpose of this. Sleeping, another cute kitty picture, and meditation. So finding balance in your life. It only happens when you build in new routines. So one of the routines, if you can build in the mindfulness practices, you have to build it in or it's not going to happen. And even if you do this once a week, and if you're working with your students, if they have a mindful activity once a week, research has shown that is enough to really make a significant difference for those students. So of course, it would be great to do it more often. But even if you can build it in that short amount of time, it has a benefit. And it has a benefit for you too. So plugging into your source of energy. What is your source of energy? Is it the sleep? Is it the nutrition? Is it the exercise? Some of us get a source of energy by doing other activities. It might not necessarily always be physical activities. So where is your source? And plug into that. Sometimes it's just spending time with your significant other. Sometimes it's spending time with your kids. Well, maybe not now, because they're all home. But, and then stopping those self-destructive behaviors. We are our own worst enemy. So how can you find balance in your life? Think about what are the things that you're doing that actually does not give you mindfulness, does not give you that, that peace of mind and ability to really focus on the present. What are you doing? And then allowing yourself little luxuries. luxuries doesn't mean it has to cost anything. It means that I'm going to commit to spending time each day meditating, and I'm committing 5 minutes every day. I mean, that doesn't seem like much at all, but it might be a luxury for you because there is not a quiet time in your life. So how do you build that time? I know my niece always said it was when she took a shower, so nobody would bother her. So stress really is what mindfulness is trying to make a difference on. So stress is really about changing the way our brain responds to stimuli in our environment. So having a mindful way of reacting, and then teaching people who have some challenges, either students or adults, helping them with tools that can help them with changing the way they're going to respond to some situation. So we have our own volume, and we create our own stress, sometimes through our own thoughts. Remember those 50,000 thoughts. And some people use stress management techniques, and I've got some YouTube videos at the end of this PowerPoint, for the ways to help with stress management. But all of these are really talking about skills to really relax, kind of get rid of that negative filter, it may not eliminate it, but it may be a way to reduce that negative filter. And then learning new habits. That is how we change old habits. And that is how we help our students and the adults with disabilities that we work with. We have to change the way that they are reacting to their environment. And in the end, you see that 41% reduction in heart attacks. There you go. So be sure the music is playing. So having daily affirmations, having maybe some relaxation, you get these all apps on the phone and stuff like that. So helping, here's some YouTubes on managing stress. But finding your happy place and balancing the scales. How do you help your students find the happy place? Happiness is not a consequence of good fortune. It is absolutely a state of mind. People can be happy and joyful even when they're in really poor situations. It is all about our state of mind. And then most people are as happy as they make their minds to be. Now, each morning, this is sincerely what I do. Each morning when I get up, I think about today, I choose happiness. I could choose to be frustrated, angry, sad, but I choose happy, because why wouldn't I? Why would I rather spend my day happy? So a balanced life is also about gratitude. So finding opportunities to show and reflect your gratitude. I'm such a believer in this, and there's been so many cool things like passing it on, and really, I've been a recipient of that when I've been in line. Somebody bought my soda because I don't drink coffee, and so things like that. So, but really, I love this idea about you have coworkers, or you have people, another service provider, you might have a principal in the school, you might have another teacher, a paraprofessional, who went out of their way to do something for you, and they were kind. And in acknowledging that in a way, we, in my agency, always had a bunch of thank you notes. I'd go on if there was any on sale. And so one of the things, having something handwritten, nobody sends anything handwritten anymore. Nobody. I mean, practically. My mother still writes letters, and she sends postcards. My 97-year-old mother. So she's quite the character. But the whole idea is that when we get something, a thank you note, honestly, I keep them. They're on my bulletin board. I have notes that people have thanked me for when I went to do a training, and I keep them. I don't throw those away because they're special, they're unique. So find ways to show gratitude any way you can, any way throughout the day. And I feel like a lot of people are getting this right now, whether you're going to the grocery store workers are hearing, Costco workers are hearing, thank you for working today. Thank you for being here. Obviously the EMTs and the nurses and all the people, the healthcare workers, but there's so many people are garbage guy. Thank you, garbage guy. He's still out working. Thank goodness, or that garbage would be pretty stinky in my garage. So really finding ways to be grateful. So each day can bring its own challenges. Don't pretend that it doesn't. So sometimes you're the dog, and some days you're the hydrant. So sometimes you're on top, sometimes you're not. So it's all about how you're going to respond to that. If you don't drown by falling in the water, you drown by staying there. So how do you make a decision about reframing your experiences? And how do you help the students to do that as well? So we had a gentleman that had the disability, it's a lot of different labels, but he would eat things and he would hurt people. And he was in a facility here in Madison called Minota Mental Health. And they said, we want you to have a chance to live in your community. And so they had sometimes 2 or 3 staff with him to keep him safe and to keep staff safe. And they had a safe house, and it was quite an undertaking. And they decided to train all the staff on mindfulness techniques, total mindfulness techniques. And so every single staff, they were paid a little bit more because it was a very volatile setting. And they taught him things about how to reframe his emotions, how to react to his emotions. Did it happen overnight? Of course not. But what they did is they didn't just teach him things, they taught the staff who supported him differently. So you see, it isn't just the person that needs to learn or the student that's learning some ways to reframe how they're going to react to their environment, but it was also how you are reframing, how you're reacting to them as well. So here's a gentleman, I'll call him Sam. And so Sam was down to, so now today, and really this isn't that many years later, I think it took several years of mindfulness to get down to 1 staff, but now he is literally, he works at the local grocery store, unsupervised, and does he have some bad days? Yes. Have policemen called? Yes. Has he lost his job? No. This grocery store is fantastic. He's such a hardworking man and such a good man. And then he's down to 1 staff and who are not with him 100% of the time. So he learned how to manage his own frustrations and his anxiety, his need to hurt himself, and then the staff were as well. So there is some really wonderful changes that can happen, and I've seen them. Now, it takes effort and time, of course, and thinking about what you can do in your classroom differently and how you can interact with your students differently. So here's some quotes that I loved on optimism, because you have to be optimistic to believe you can make these changes. So if you keep on saying things are bad, you're going to be a prophet. How wonderful is that nobody need to wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Attitudes of choice. If you can't give children optimism, then what are you doing? I love that one. So these are some cool thoughts. And then we also have to keep, as we learn optimism, our actions then build this positive attitude. So as we build this positive attitude, our students build it as well. And so really encouraging constantly and being thoughtful about how we're interacting with our students, listening to them. Where are they coming from when they're talking to us? What is it? Why is that disrespectful tone coming out? Well, maybe that student just got bullied in the hallway. Maybe at home they've been beaten by their parent. I mean, we know bad things happen to our students prior to them ever walking into our classroom. And we know that adults with disabilities are much more likely to be sexually abused than any other population. So we know bad things happen. So we have to help them, engaging them in changing the way they're responding to being more positive. What do you have, not what you don't have. So this is a real, I love cat pictures, what can I say? So laughter is like changing a baby's diaper. It doesn't permanently solve any problems, but it makes things more acceptable for a while, right? So thinking about how laughter and joy, finding ways to bring joy and happiness and laughter into your classroom, into your life. Developing close friendships. Really, they found that when our students can actually develop some friendships, or if you have friendships, this is really important. And this really full inclusion into the school, helping to develop mentors, really building those experiences for students to feel connected, whether they're in special ed or general ed, really help the opportunities to feel connected. Because in the real world, in life, they'll always be connected. They're always going to be side by side. So let's keep them side by side in school and help make that happen however we can. So making mindfulness a habit, really talking about this, changing your routine, and habits are highly trainable. So tomorrow, here's my question. How do your core values impact your daily work? You talked about what motivates you. How do you incorporate mindfulness into your everyday life? How can you bring mindfulness into your classroom? Or if you're working with adults with disabilities, how can you bring that mindfulness in the work you're doing with them? How can you re-energize yourself? In other words, what can you do differently tomorrow based on what you just learned this morning, today? I want you to write down 3 things that you plan to implement in your personal and professional life. And this is a promise you're going to make to yourself. I'm just going through slides showing recommended readings, resources, and my contact. Keep writing. I want you to write them down. So anyone who wants me to send you this email, I see some of you have given me your emails. I'm more than happy to do that. Oh, here was one. For every 20 minutes spent looking at the screen, you should look at something else for at least 20 seconds. Stand up, move around. As a nurse, I know that our legs can get deep vein thrombosis, which are blood clots. And so that's really clearly important. So thank you all so much. And there's my email. And please, please feel free to email me. And if you've given me yours, I will send you a copy of this. If you want some other webinars, I'm happy to send you a link to those. And I thank you so very much. I hope that this training had a positive impact on you and your opportunity, what you can do with your students, and if you work with adults with disabilities. So thank you very, very much for joining me today.